It's a beautiful day to blaze some good, a beautiful day to blaze some good. Or would you be kind? Please light mine. All right. So, day 23, wake and bake, beans and greens. Got some, I think it's homegrown. Does the job, so that's really all that matters at the end of the day. And then I was drinking up some, well, still am drinking up some Wawa's coffee. Nothing too special, but you know, like you got like Wawa, 7-Eleven, and Dunkin' Donuts. That's like, if I'm buying coffee, that's where I want to get coffee from. Don't really do the Starbucks, but hey, maybe if I can get a little sponsorship, maybe I'll be a Starbucks drinker then. Shit. Anyway, it's again, day 23, 100 days to 1,000 subscribers. I think so far I've gotten 2. Oh, is it 2? 2 or 3. One is somebody I knew personally, so that was a sort of organic. That was, hey man, I didn't know you had a channel. Let me check it out. Oh shit. I think one of them also was like a troll or something. One of those, come check out my Discord. I get you subscribers and shit like that. Yeah, okay. But anyway, so today's segment is laughing with ghosts. This one's a little bit different, sort of. It's still sort of a similar platform, and when I get to, you'll see what I'm saying. A similar platform that I have used before, as far as the comic, but and we'll definitely get to that in a little bit. But I just wanted to listen to this for a little bit, just to react to it. It's and I'll definitely go into that a little bit more in a little bit. It's just just going with the theme of pretty much all I've been talking about the last few weeks. This the segment I'm going to play doesn't have any relevance in the sense that other past segments have, in the sense that you can because so usually when I'm listening to a comic or something like that, there's some sort of relevance to what's going on now, that what this comics we're talking about, in their time frame. So it could be like 95, but it's still sort of all that shit's happening right now in 2025. In this case, it's a little bit different. Now, what's significant about it is because of course, the comedian, and in this case, actually 2 of them have passed away. And again, like I said, it's not too much social thing in sort of to it, other than just I like these guys. The other thing too is this show that I'm gonna react to actually was on the last time President Trump was the president. And it's so funny because as I listened to the shows from that time frame, there was so much of sort of a circus around the politics in general that hasn't ceased. And of course, with him being president again, it's his turn. So it's his circus, as opposed to when Biden was Biden's circus. Or, I mean, was it Biden's? I don't know. So that's one of the things. But before I get there, and I already have it set up to a segment, and I'll go over that in just a moment. One of the things I wanted to sort of go over too was just something that I noticed. So it's just, and I'm gonna do a little bit more research on this, but it was like a video, and the caption read, "Why NASA stopped exploring the sea and then went to space." And I can speculate in many ways. There's a lot of different things going on, as far as space travel and NASA and all that stuff. But anybody that does explorations, there's always, I personally just don't believe people. Just, just especially at face value. And I didn't believe people when it was face to face, and then now with the internet, now we deal with the internet, and you have AI, there's scams, and it's all kinds of shit. There's just people just talking just because they got a mic in front of their face. They're like, it's like, I'm an expert, which I certainly not. I don't ever profess to be. I just like to talk shit, but. This space occupies so much of our mental, not only just as far as distraction, but it also basically, that's the best word I'm looking for, programs, television programming, computer programming. Programs your minds to act accordingly, to think accordingly. So, but and for some of us, we don't always. Not that we're like rebels, or not that we're like going against the green man or anything like that. It's just that some of us choose not to want to believe everything the way it is, And there are things within us that we can sort of, glean. College word, glean. There's things that we can sort of surmise or come to conclusion based off of things that we see, as far as things that we read or things. So it's always good to look at the things that they talk about and then look behind what's going on. Okay, so just a perfect example of what's going on today. You're talking about these tariffs, right? And now with tariffs, at least far as my understanding goes, is we buy, or you have a wholesaler who buys the goods at this, raised price because of the tariffs. Because of course, the people selling it, they're not going to pay extra. And the people buying, they're not gonna keep the cost because they're gonna resell it. So of course, they're going to put those costs on the consumers. And then now it's, they're pausing it, but it's still keeping, except for in the rare case of China. But then, right? Okay, so it's supposed to bring back manufacturing, this, that, and the other. But then again, don't they own our debt? Or a major portion of it? So them sending goods over here, how are they even putting tariffs on it? I mean, this is like, yo, we own you. So I just think that, they say one thing while doing something elsewhere. So now let me circle back. Because like I was saying before, the caption talks about how, they stopped exploring the sea because of what's down there. Now, the video footage has, this is scary as shit. It has people, like, people were, they had water go all over them, and they were just flooded in standing position and preserved in the water in standing position, but people, like statues. That's pretty crazy. And if we understand that, these islands were basically volcanoes that at some point, or mountains that at some point, because of the way the water flooded the world, it basically, it basically flooded over the mountain and left just the mountain peaks, which then we could, at that point would turn into islands. And there's whole societies from the way this looks. And again, there is a certain resemblance of the figures. The resemblance of the figures of the people, the resemblance of the people. It's a distressful thing to have to say, because people get their britches in a bunch, but they were of a specific tone. I could be wrong. Color-wise, of a specific hue. I could be wrong. Certain characteristics. And that does also go back to, circling back to one of my first talking points in the podcast, was my belief that this whole idea of Atlantis, this kind of confirms my idea if Atlantis was a real thing, if Atlantis was not just fairy tale and myth, this is where you'd find Atlantis. At the bottom of one of these mountain ranges, which are now basically islands. Some island somewhere, somehow. The fuck did I just say? No, I didn't say that on purpose. I just script none of this shit I say. I script out. Blah, blah, blah. I didn't script out nothing I say. So, whoa. Holy shit. So, also the idea of the inhabitants of said Atlantis, which again, I could be wrong. If it exists, if it did, what would the people look like? I mean, so much of our history is, I know for a fact it has to be distorted and changed. And I mean, you look at the good book. All the people in the good book are of a certain, even though the places where the stories in the good book took place, the people were and they talk about Atlantis in whether it's like a movie or in passing or as a myth. But the whole idea that this caption read that they abandoned looking because of what they would find. You know, and of course, also the whole alien thing too is basically they exist underwater. Yeah, I have my also my doubts on the whole alien thing too. That I'll save for another day. But just there's so much doubt in everything, and people are so stuck to their, you know, and so rigid in their beliefs. They wrap their whole identity behind these beliefs. That if something goes to shatter that idea, you know, it's like, oh no, don't do that. You know, like when a child first learns that Christmas is real. You know, all that time. You know, part of their identity, because you're a kid. You know, and you want toys, you want things, and you always want to have a reason. And other outside of Christmas or your birthday, you know, if your parents aren't rich, and you're not like a super overachiever that you can say, hey, I'm getting all these A's, or what up with the this or that. And even if you're getting all these A's, you don't want this or that. You want something specific that may help you get more A's. So at that point, you know, either way, you know, being a knucklehead, even though, you know, I was the one that always wanted this or that, but I was in top class. I didn't have A's or anything like that. Not because I couldn't. And I don't know how it was in the. I don't know. I could do dumb shit like read well, I guess. not that it really translated, because 1812 and 296. To play that number. But either way. So much of yeah, everything is, everybody ties their life to these identities, and whatever goes with that, that's the in the confines of what you live. Even if it goes against humanity, you know. And I guess that's also why with this next segment, you know, it's something that I've identified as something that's, I don't want to say necessarily important to me, but it's just, I mean, I don't know why it's something that I kind of thought of, you know, the whole idea of laughing with ghosts. But I guess it's just basically, because okay, so the whole idea is, you know, the comedians that I listen to that have passed, you know, there's always something there that I could identify with. That's definitely it too as well. But it's not that I'm so rigid in the way I think, and you know, I take my identity around a specific thing, or a specific culture or religion or anything like that. But I the way I think and the way I do things, you know, it jumps around, but it's real diverse and ideologies. That's the way I feel it. Like the things the way I think and the way I feel things about things, other things, and things. You know, it all comes from all kinds of different areas. Like for instance, you know, I'm sitting there making EDM beats, and I can turn around and make a hip hop beat, and then when I get my guitars going, that's going to be a bulk of my stuff that I'm gonna be working on, because I have a bunch of songs that I want to flesh out. and demo, and then obviously make full albums. Talking about like the metal shit, I got 10 songs identified as these are the ones I'm gonna work on. This is demo, album, whatever. But I probably got like 50 of just like demos and shells and riffs and things that I could turn into something. So whole point to that is, I have different ideologies to sort of make up how I think. I have gone to a heavy metal show. It was, I don't remember. But then turn around the next day and go to a hip hop show. So now that I do remember, Helter Skelter. I did get to see Helter Skelter before his son died and shit, but that's a whole other story in itself. So back to the segment, Laughing with Ghosts. I do listen to a whole different or diverse array of different comedians, and a lot of the ones I like, obviously on this segment that I show have passed. So this one is no different. And the reason why I say diverse is because okay, so the platform I'm talking about, again, it's a platform sort of that I've listened to before on here, which was Opie and Anthony. And of course, it was Patrice O'Neal was the one that we listened to. He was said Ghost. Now, back in, say, around 2016 or around that time frame, 2014 or whatever, there was some shit that went down, and lost one of the hosts, Anthony. And it was Opie, and it was the third mic host, who was sort of third mic to Opie and Anthony. He came up basically from the bullpen, as a way to say that. And it was Opie and Jimmy. Then it was just Opie. And for that last year that he was on the radio, Opie, I think it was 2017. He had a bunch of different guys that were hosting with them, but there were 3 in particular that were sort of the mainstay, and you would have either one of them with a couple different ones, or 2 or all 3, but you'd have different other people filling in, but you'd have at least 1 or 2 of the guys that made the main group. But you had these 3 guys, and shit happens. The show got canceled. It was some straight insider bullshit. It's first off, it's wild that you're in a position that you can bring people up, and you can help them get a job, and when they get the job at the place that you work, making good money, meeting ill people, and you look out for them. And sure, there's things behind the scenes, things that I never seen, but either way, in some cases, motherfucker makes you a millionaire, or helps you become a millionaire, or just gives you just a good career, and then you screw them over. That's part of that whole thing that happened last year. But either way, two of the guys, one's a comedian and one's actually a TV personality. They have, since the show has gone off, passed. They were doing stuff on like podcasts, stuff like that, but it's really wild because these these guys were total characters, total personalities. Because like I said, one's a comedian and the other one is the TV personality. So it's really wild. And like I said, diverse because okay, so it was Opie Radio, and you'd have Vic Henley, comedian. You'd have Sherrod Williams, comedian. Then you'd have Carl Ruiz, TV personality. Sherrod is still alive, but both Vic Henley and Carl Ruiz have passed. And man, those guys were so fucking fun to listen to. Now I listened to hours and hours and hours and hours of like these playlists of the old Opie and Anthony show. I didn't really listen to it when they were on because like current. I knew about them, and I just never really was. I mean, I was on the streets and I listened to CDs and music. I couldn't. At that point, I wasn't really into talk radio, but when I really did get into them, this is of course after, they were, this was later on, so they weren't the same. And even I think at some point this is during the time frame where they were sort of being broken up at that point. And then I started getting into them, and I would listen to the whole playlist of it. Then, as the show changed, you had the addition of Carl, you had the addition of Vic, and you had and Sherrod. And it was crazy because I still didn't have Sirius because they were on Sirius at the time. I didn't have Sirius XM, but the day of the show, the next day they would play. They would upload the replay on YouTube. So I was sort of following along current at real time, and it was just so damn fun, man. I wish they could have been on longer, but it was just, when you sit back and you want to just, you just don't want to think about nothing. You don't want to see nobody. Just, just a radio show that you could identify with and you feel what's going on. You could feel the people and the subjects were fun, and they had like audiences, like just they were engaged with the audience in a different way than they were before. There's a different type of people, different type of atmosphere. Of course, previous people, but it was a whole new audience. It was kind of ill, but it was just real eerie because this one host, Opie, from all the different iterations of a show, dealing with he had Patrice O'Neal who passed, Greg Giraldo. One of the last interviews that Greg Giraldo ever did was Opie and Anthony. There were a couple other ones. There were definitely a couple other ones, and then you have this last sort of iteration of the show, and you had these two guys. They were so friggin' fun to listen to, and two of them passed since the show has gone off. It's just wild, and so that's why I just want to do a little bit of action, just listen to it for a couple of minutes, because this is they were just fun, and you just. It's like you was sitting next to them chilling. And, you had somebody to chill with and listen to for a little while without all the bullshit. And he talked about the bullshit. And like I said, this show was going on during the first Trump term. It's not going to be a lot of talk about Trump in this segment. It's only a couple of minutes I'm going to play anyway. But if you would go back and listen to that year, which is all over, it's all over YouTube right now, especially the video. Before we only had just audio. So the actual one of the guys that was running the show, partly how the show ended, but the guy who he was part of the show, he was, I don't know exactly what his role was, but he was sort of in the background. He was videotaping, and one of the big things that happened at the end of the show, on the last show, was he got into arguing with Opie and took his cameras and shit. So I guess now in 2025 he released all the video. That's crazy. It's kind of ill too. So anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and play this for a couple minutes. You get to hear it's gonna be Sherrod, it's gonna be Vic, it's gonna be Opie, it's gonna be Carl, and you see the mayhem. All right, here we go. Now there is video. I'm not gonna play video. I'm just playing some audio. You don't even really need the video, to tell you the truth. Okay, here we go. Claim fair use. Only a couple minutes. Here we go.
Then bring all the stewardesses and show it to them and show them what was happening.
Was it an Asian? Oh my! Was it an Asian stewardess or flight attendant?
No. They're all American.
Okay, that's the fight back.
Oh, yeah.
And they never knew it was you. They never knew where it was.
Never found out. Wow.
That's the thing.
That's so weird. Like that's one thing I don't have a lot of is shit stories because
Of course.
I was a chef so young
I've got
that you
27
become
years.
Of course.
We're gonna have fun at Vic's goodbye party with some ham and ice cream.
Exactly.
Let me smell that.
My
cake didn't make the cut today.
I've got to stand up and do a crotch
Bring
adjustment.
the cake.
I don't think it made the cut. There's so much good stuff in the studio. I gotta tell you, I tried this in the office. I tried sad. Listen,
Rolling.
Yeah, of course.
happy birthday to your son. I tried the cake. It's not gonna make it.
Yes.
Okay, so let me back up for a second. So you have Carl Ruiz. He did a lot of shows on the Food Network, you know, like Guy's Grocery Games and things like that. He was mostly with Guy Fieri. And so a lot of his, and he also ran like restaurants and stuff in New York. So a lot of his stuff was food related. And that was cool because he just had stories and just all kinds of just jokes and shit. So they're tasting some food basically that Carl brought in.
He was pointing to his feet.
At pain. He's 27 years old.
That's Vic.
It's not a mean joke if I go 20 years.
And with that, sorry, that's all good. We'll be back. Stacy's going to explain the moonshine and we're going to celebrate Vic's last day.
Right.
All right. No, he said on Twitter it's his last day. Right?
You want to eat a cherry right now?
We're going to have fun at Vic's goodbye party with some ham and ice cream.
Exactly.
Let me smell that shit.
See?
All that shit.
It smells good as a
That's some good stuff,
motherfucker.
man. That's some good stuff.
See what I mean?
I'm guessing.
Oh, bam, 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 bam.
Old smoky moonshine. That thing will run a...
See, I mean, it's not, it's not like super intellectual. They just sit around and bullshit, and now they're just munching on some, like, exotic ham and some other. It's kind of corny, but then again, so what?
A lawnmower.
Yes.
Oh, yes, it will.
Yes. You can literally put that.
Opie Radio. We'll be right back.
Nice. Yeah. Name of it?
Irondale.
Irondale.
I-R-O-N, Iron. D-A-L-E.
Irondale,
Alabama.
Alabama.
And idiots.
Wow. Different from New York, is it, Vic? Do they have electricity?
Yes, they do.
Do they know that black people are free?
Yeah, George Wallace is
Are they
still
okay
alive.
with it?
George Wallace is
they
still
all
alive.
work right there.
Right.
You keep an eye on them, do you, Stace?
Who do you think's working the grill?
Are the toilets in the house? Optional.
But truckers from other states would often, and I love the truckers, but truckers from other states when their first visit to pulling into Birmingham would call it Irondale.
Irondale.
They didn't know it was Irondale. They saw
This is
IRONDALE,
bullshit, man.
and they go, I don't need to pull in. I'm about 20 minutes outside of town. I'm over here at Irondale. I'm like, no, that's Irondale. And stop at the Golden Rule.
Now, what big city's near? So what's
It's right by Birmingham.
Right next to Birmingham.
Right next to Birmingham.
Okay.
Yeah,
It's just north of Birmingham, right off I-20.
Yeah.
Well, why are you
okay.
bringing Vic that? I don't even know.
What's
Just
the
to
one?
rub it in my face that he went there and I didn't get to enjoy it.
place there the other day and had sent
Yes,
me a
he
picture
sent me
of
a
it.
picture of it because
No,
he
what's
didn't,
that place? What's that place now?
taunting. It's the Golden Rule Barbecue. So it's just a
Golden Rule Barbecue.
Yeah, there's a few of them in Alabama. It's just
Jesus, I want it.
it's just a barbecue joint. It's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Golden
they got,
Rule.
See why that's so eerie? Because the last guy you heard talking, that's Vic Henley. He passed away, and then of course there's Carl. I'll point him out in a second. So it's just real eerie hearing this. It's really wild.
they got the golden crust over everything, just a black crust.
Everything's good.
Oh, yeah.
They make,
What? Let me see the pictures.
They make one of the best fucking cheeseburgers you ever had. My sister-in-law will only eat the cheeseburger. You know.
Hey, pull it up.
That's
You
what
see
y'all-
that?
It's just
That's what
barbecue
y'all
joint.
Nobody answered me.
Oh my God. Holy.
That's Sherrod.
Wait,
That's a
He's
different-
still with us.
Benedict?
Shrimp eggs
Yeah,
Benedict,
I
right?
had that the other morning down in Mobile, Alabama.
Man,
That's an extra
that's
guy.
Carl's suggestion, right?
Oh, that looks so good.
Yes.
Now, Stacy, what else did you bring us today, buddy?
First of all, Dr. Steve sent you all a selection of.
I got an old Rasputin Russian Imperials.
I wish this was going a little bit more fluid.
Is this Stunt Brain? Hopefully. I blew him off an hour ago.
All right. I wish it was going a little bit better than it did, but I'll probably play a little more when I just get this working better. But either way, it was just really weird and airy, to be in that guy's shoes. These people that he worked with and had fun with and, broke bread with and, 2017, so that's 8 years later, no longer with us. But that whole year, man, that was like for radio. It's like when you listen to other podcasts, you got this red pill bullshit and this blue pill bullshit and this black pill and all the politics and all the fighting and this, that, and the other. And it was just, they talked about a bunch of that shit, but then it was just mostly just dudes just kicking the shit about whatever was in their life at the time. And sometimes, man, that's kind of really, I don't know. It's just. I don't know. It's just better than sometimes listening to shit with agendas. It's just people just kicking the bullshit. Basically, that's it. And again, you had one black guy, you had a Hispanic guy, you had a white guy, you had actually two white guys, and you had a revolving cast of different people that would come in and out, and it would add different elements to it. It was just fun. So anyway, they're ranting and pontificating about. But this one was, like I said, just a little bit different because again, it was a talk show and it had both of the hosts have since took that long road. Is it a long road? How do we know? Anyway, day is long, the sun is hot. Might as well smoke if you got some pot.